welcome to the Sukkah. I know Ruth told me that you guys were hoping that maybe the family will be here, like the children. So I said to her, I'm happy to disappoint you guys because it's way past bedtime. It's 10:40 already. And so hopefully they're inside asleep. Hopefully.
Are you sleeping in the sukkah during these days?
Yeah. I stayed here with the kids, all 6 of them. We spent we did starting from the first night, from Friday until this evening. Every night everybody was outside. So Leah, even the dog, okay, even the little dog, and it was the funniest thing because he's so little, but he felt so responsible to look after us, to watch over us, and we're basically on the street, right? I mean, you're outside. It's not in our yard or anything. We do it in the front. We build it, we do it like really in the front of the house. So every little noise, he would start barking and barking and barking. So it was like that during the first night. And then every other night after, he felt a little bit more comfortable. So we had quieter times every other night that came after. So that was nice, and so I mean, just this evening when I said to them that tonight they can't stay here because I'll be finishing this quite late, so they need to stay in the house. The youngest one, she started to cry and I want to sleep in the sukkah, and she was like this. So either she really loves the sukkah, or she's really looking for a reason to get some attention, or both, both are good options. So that's basically what we have. So if I have some things that I would be happy to share, but maybe we'll pray, Ruth, before.
Yeah.
Okay. While Ruth is praying, I'm just going to pour in you guys as well. If you have some wine with you, I think it'll be nice if we could just have a lechaim together for the feast, either now or at the end of the session. Doesn't really matter. I'm gonna drink one now, but feel free to join me.
Do you want to do that before we pray?
No. First you pray.
Okay. So, Father, thank you so much just for the joy of being together and of being able to be with Gil in his sukkah. And Lord, I do just pray for Gil, for Leah, for all the children. Lord, that this season will be so full of joy and a sense of your closeness and your presence with them as a family and with their community. Just really pray a blessing upon them, Lord. And we pray for Gil especially, Lord, in all the many ways that he shares with us. And just pray for him tonight as he shares with us, that you will bless him, you will strengthen him, you will give him even further insight in these days as he spends his time in the sukkah with you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, so let's have l'chaim. Okay, this is the feast. It's an appointed feast, right? This is the Feast of Tabernacles, one out of very 3 important times that we have during the year: Passover, Feast of Weeks, and Feast of Tabernacles. This is the time when we need to go and seek for the face of the Lord in His house, and to celebrate this time. So, despite all the difficulties and despite everything we are now experiencing, we still have a lot of room in our hearts. We should make a lot of room in our hearts to celebrate these days and to literally see His face. So, l'chaim.
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 That's awesome.
Okay.
Literally see His face. Well, yes. and then you say to life, but He says you cannot see me and live. We have to talk about this one sometime.
Okay, we want this session to be about the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay? You know, it's very easy to throw me off topic. Don't, especially with this glass next to me. So please. Okay. Okay, Ruth. I would like to suggest, if that's okay, to actually to divide our time together maybe to three. Okay, I would like us to talk about three elements which we have in the holiday, in this holiday. There are more than three, but I would take, let's take the three main ones. One is, of course, the Sukkah, the tabernacle. Okay, so we can talk about that and what it represents, and some elements about it. The second one would be the four species. Okay, so we know we need to take special branches, and so I have like a kit here with all the branches inside, and with the fruit of the citrus tree, etc. And the third element, I would like us to talk about this time, this holiday, as being the Feast of the Nations. It's the Jewish Feast of the Nations, really. Okay, and we'll read from scriptures why, about each aspect of that. So let's just divide it in three. Otherwise, it's very easy with such a rich time and holiday that you have so much to share about. It's easy to get lost. So let's start with the Sukkah, okay, the tabernacle itself. Okay, let's read from Leviticus.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to read from Leviticus, chapter, what is it? Chapter 23. Okay, chapter 23. We're gonna read two sections. Okay, one starts in verse 33.
Right.
Okay. Okay, let's do from 33 to 37, including 37.
Okay. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days to the Lord. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a sacred assembly, and you shall do no customary work on it. These are the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything on its day."
Very good. Okay, so this is a passage which comes after a long chapter. Okay, 32 verses before. We have a whole chapter that talks about the holy convocations. Okay, about all the feasts. Okay, that we have. So he talks about the Feast of Trumpets and Day of Atonement, and he talks about Passover and Feast of Weeks. He talks about everything. Feast of Tabernacles is the last one in the series. Okay, in that series, and these are the final verses. That's where we have the ending. These are the holy convocations for the Lord. Okay, so because this is really the last one, it's the closure of a whole passage. Okay, so we know that the Feast of Tabernacles lasts 7 days. Only the first day is a day in which no customary work should be done in. Okay, so only the first day. All the other 6 days are days they are part of the feast, but work may be done. So it's okay for me to be online at the moment and and use the internet and electricity and everything, and regular days, but special. Okay, they are still included in inside of the feast, but it's not about work that can't be done. It's not like a Shabbat. Okay, only the first day out of the 7, that's like Shabbat. And this week, not coincidence, by chance, it was actually Shabbat. Okay, it was Shabbat, and the first day of the feast was actually Shabbat. Okay, so that's about the timeline. The feast has an extra 8th day. Okay, so the 8th day, is another holy convocation, which has a significance of its own. But we're basically talking about 7 days in which we would sit in the sukkah. Okay, let's jump a little bit to verse 41. Okay, 41 to the end of the chapter.
Okay.
By the way, Ruth, are you able to record? Oh, you are recording.
It's recording.
Okay. Good. Thank
you. You shall keep it as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So
okay.
Okay,
so that's okay. So we find many ideas about Sukkah. Okay, about this thing called Sukkah, which sometimes I see it as tabernacle, but sometimes as a booth. In the English translation, in the Hebrew text, it's just Sukkah. And there are many ideas about Sukkah. Many teachings. Some would tell you that Sukkah is it's I mean the special thing about Sukkah is that it's something that you do with all of your body, right? Your whole body is involved. You have to dwell inside the Sukkah. You do it with your whole body. It's not just one organ, or it's not about something you need to think about. It's really something that your whole body is doing, and we don't have many things like that. There is only one other command in Torah, which we have just like that, forcing your whole body to be involved in it, and that is settling the land. Settling the land, living in the land, that's something that your whole body is involved with. And also with Sukkah. Unlike other commands, which you do with different parts of your body, okay, or don't do. But this one, so some would give you that teaching. Some would give you the teaching about the days of faith. Okay, that after the days of judgment, which we had around Rosh Hashanah 2 weeks ago, after days of mercy around Day of Atonement, now it's days of faith. Why days of faith? Because now we really have to show faith, leaving our homes just when it starts to be a little bit cooler. Here in this part of the world, it's just a little bit cooler. I know that in some areas it's very cold. And it might also be rainy, but here it's not that's not the case. But it begins to be cooler at night, still very hot during the day. Not the most pleasant time to spend time outside, neither during the day nor during the night. But still, we do that, and we leave our protected area, our safety zone, and we go out and we dwell in the tabernacle, on the street, so to speak. And not all people have such an intimidating security dog like we have. So some would give you that teaching. Some would give you the teaching about God's shelter, right? God's shelter. This is like a sukkah is about God's presence, right? You sit under this temporary roof when there is nothing that divides. There is no divider between you dwelling inside the sukkah and heaven above you. Nothing comes as a divider. It's you right under heaven. And this temporary roof, which we are committed to build and to sit under, this is like a magnifying glass. We sit under a magnifying glass, and God sees us, and He fills the space, and it's like sitting in God's hug. Some would give you that teaching. And there are all kinds of teachings, right? And it's, by the way, I'm not saying that one is true, one is not true. I'm not saying that one takes over the other one. They're all true. It's all fine. But really, the core reason why we do it is because I made them dwell in booths. Okay, when I took them out of Egypt, I am the Lord your God. Usually when God says, I am the Lord your God, that's the reason for why you do it. It's not about how you picture it and what sort of content you would like to put in to this act. That the reason is, I am the Lord your God. I am your creator, and I know you, and I want you to do that. And that's enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay, that we don't need more than that. We usually have this tendency to add and to, to create a some sort of like to build a story, right, or to have an image, or to create some sort of to depict a picture. But really, I am the Lord your God. That's the main reason why we do it. It doesn't contradict the fact that everything we mentioned before is still true. It is like sitting in God's hug. It is really, really. I mean, this is there's such a. I feel the safest when I'm here, and this is the most temporary thing, always cracking, when it's windy. And you were here last year, you know how windy it was. Everything collapsed.
It was
Everything collapsed.
terrifying. I was having a little nap in the afternoon, and all of a sudden, I thought that the car had fallen through the floor. It was such a huge noise, and the whole thing. I came upstairs, and it was raining, and the whole
Well,
thing had collapsed.
good thing you didn't take your nap here, and then everything. But it's everything is very true. I mean, you do feel, you do it with all of your body. There is something. It's like sitting in a mikveh, in a pool of purifying water. It really is. I feel his presence maybe in the most powerful way throughout the year. Now this week, when I'm here, I feel the closest. I feel the safest. It's an undescribable feeling, really. And I keep saying to the family, this is so my holiday. I just love this holiday the most. And they say, yeah, we know. But no, but really, it's all very true. Yet the reason why we do it is because of what you've read. I am the Lord your God. That's why we do it, not because of anything else. Okay, and I've taken you out of Egypt, and I made you dwell in booths. And what does that mean? God's pillar of cloud, became like a shelter for them. Okay, so it's not like God built, he banged like hammer and nails, and he created these booths for them, because they were on the move, they were walking all the time. So what were those tabernacles really? We talk about the clouds of glory, which formed those booths for them.
Wow.
So that's about the Sukkah. Okay. There was a section just before in Leviticus chapter 23 about the four species. Okay, let's read from verse 40 to verse 42, including verse 40. 40 and 41.
40 and 41 of this chapter.
This chapter, and you shall take for yourselves.
And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You shall keep it as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your
God. You're unstoppable, really.
I am.
So you read. I think your translation said in verse 40, "You shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruits of beautiful trees," if I'm not mistaken. But it really talks about, it's in a singular syntax. So it's a fruit of the kind of trees which are described are, how do you call the whole group of trees, like oranges, clementines, lemons, citrus? No, citrus.
Citrus trees, citrus fruits.
Yeah, citrus. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the citrus fruit, that's basically what we need to take. And according to the tradition, this is the one. Okay, sorry, it's right there. Okay, this is the one.
Nice.
It's not a lemon. Okay, even though it may looks like one, but it's definitely not a lemon. It doesn't smell like one. It's very, very unique. So that's one. By the way, you can only find them. They grow on trees here only this time of year. You cannot find them in a different time. It's like, God sent to them to be there just for the sake of keeping this command. Nobody eats them, by the way, even though they are edible. You can eat them, but nobody eats them because they are only, people buy them on the markets just for the sake of the command. And it has to be without blemish. It has to be very, very, very clean, without a spot or a dot or a stain or anything. It needs to be very, very much, very well kept. We usually keep it in something like that. So we wrap it in this so it doesn't get bumped or anything. Okay, so this is the heart of it. So that's one. We have the branch, and then we have three branches. We have, it's called etrog,
I'll write it
right?
down.
So it's etrog.
Oh,
And so we have,
there we go.
okay.
Sorry. Forget
Okay.
what's up there. That's I was still in my Hebrew mode, so that's not the spelling in Hebrew.
Okay, so this is, and so we have the branch of a palm tree. We have myrtle branches, okay, right there, and then we have the willow, okay, the branches of willow, and what we basically do with them, we take them together, so three in one hand and the extra one right there. We hold them together and we wave them. We wave them to every direction, to every wind. Okay, so we go really north and south and east and west and up and down. Okay, we do that during the service. Okay, there is a particular time in the service every morning during the feast, and that's when we basically use them. And again, there are a lot of ideas around it. Some will give you the teaching about how each one of the species, he represents a body part. So the citrus fruit, the etorog, represents your heart, while the palm tree, okay, while the palm tree branch represents your spine, and the leaves of the myrtle, they're like in the shape of your eyes, and the leaves of the willow, they are in the shape of lips. And it really shows, it gives a picture of us worshiping God and bowing down and restricting ourselves from only looking at Him, and our words to only be about Him. And that's the sort of teaching. Okay, and then you think about it when you do it. Some would give you the teaching that each one represents a person, a kind of person in in our nation. So you have the righteous people who have both fragrance and taste. That's the etrog. You have the people that, and that basically shows both having the learning and having the good deeds. You have people who have only one. For example, the palm tree. It has the fruit that has taste, but it doesn't smell in any way. So they represent. So that represents the people who only have the deeds, the good deeds, but they don't really put so much in the learning. You have people, and they're like the myrtle. They have fragrance, they have the learning, but they don't practice much. Okay, so they have only one aspect out of the two. And you have people who are like the willow tree, and they don't do. They have neither.
They don't do
Okay,
anything.
right? They don't do any of that.
Just hang out.
Nowadays, the joke is that maybe the willow tree has COVID-19 because it doesn't have any smell or taste. And automatically you have these assumption. Maybe the cure for coronavirus is actually from the willow tree because it carries no taste or fragrance. And these sorts of ideas, I'm not saying they're not true because I haven't tested them, but I'm not saying that they are true because I haven't tested them. So and then basically so according to that teaching, when you bring them all together, you bring all these branches together and you wave them towards every possible direction. Basically, you are bringing all the people of the nation together, and only when you have all of them, really together, that's when they can go and, to every possible direction and act and do, and they are really receive the blessing from God. That's according to that teaching. So you have all these teachings, but of course, as we said before, the reason why we do it is because God said, I am the Lord your God. Okay, so all these ideas are wonderful, and they're great if you need something to help you tune in, to tune in towards what you're doing and to really get into it. In the very end, I am the Lord your God. That's the reason. Okay, why has he chosen these 4 species specifically? I don't know. I'm sure that there are other fruits that he may have chosen, other branches, but he wanted these, and that's why I'm taking these. Initially, that's the reason. I am the Lord your God. After that, once I have that sorted, because that's a lot to deal with. Once I have that sorted, then I feel free enough to go into these places and think about other sort of teachings that help me do it with more intention. Okay, but basically, just like with Sukkah, I am the Lord your God. Okay, so that's about that. Let me just put it aside. Okay, and then we basically have the third aspect of this holiday, which I think is maybe the most relevant for what we are doing and this journey that we've been on, and that is Feast of Tabernacles being the holiday of the nations. Now, why do you think that is? I mean, what do we have in scriptures about Feast of Tabernacles, which may indicate that this holiday is very important for the nations?
Well, there's the scripture that talks about everyone coming up to the mountain of the Lord, and for the feasts they're invited. But this is a special one in that sense, isn't it?
Right. So you're talking about a passage from Zechariah. So it's Zechariah chapter 14. Okay, Zechariah chapter 14. A very famous passage, a very heavy passage, I mean, like full of content, and the prophecies there is very, very powerful. And Zechariah talks about the last war, right? The end of the days. We're talking about Mount of Olives, being split in half. A half goes to one direction, the other one goes another direction. And in between there will be a valley, and the valley will be a place of shelter, and there are all kinds of descriptions and locations being included in every. Okay, big thing. Okay, very big thing. After we read about this event of the latter days, the final war, what do we have in verse 16? Well, at least 16 in my Bible here.
So shall I read that maybe till the end?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So Zechariah 4 verse 16.
No, Zechariah 14.
That's weird. Yes. I thought it was 14. It's a misprint at the top of the Bible here. How can that be? And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague with which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day, holiness to the Lord shall be engraved on the bells of the horses. The pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yes, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness to the Lord of hosts. Everyone who sacrifices shall come and take them and cook in them. In that day there shall no longer be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts.
Okay. So, without going into the details of Egypt and why Egypt specifically and not any other nation being mentioned, but the beginning of the passage is very clear. all who is left from the nations who came against Jerusalem, everybody is turned into worshippers. Okay, and they all shall come year after year to celebrate Feast of Tabernacles. Now, the question is, why do you think Feast of Tabernacles? What is so unique about Feast of Tabernacles for the nations to be in any sort of need to keep it?
What, just from what you've shared so far? Like we just
No, not necessarily. But do you have any sort of idea why?
Well, I suppose I might think about, because when we were reading in Leviticus about it, and it talks about when I brought you up out of the land of Egypt and you dwelled in the booths, and so I guess I might want to think about, well, what's the Egypt that God is bringing us up out of as a nation or as an individual or whatever. That would be one thing. I mean,
okay, so you're basically saying you're talking about redemption. You know, maybe it's some sort of redemption. We're talking about the latter days. We're talking about God providing redeeming his people from Egypt, and then he made them sit in those tabernacles. Maybe there is some sort of a connection, and maybe there is.
But
yeah.
I mean, I suppose personally, I want to say I want to do it because I want to be with you and your people. I mean, it's somehow this time that God is joining us together to come into his Sukkah together.
Right. But I'd like to remind you that, for example, with Passover, it says that this is a unique appointed feast just for this particular nation. with Passover, it says, no. With Passover, it says that no uncircumcised, no foreigner person will be able to join you on Feast of Passover. Yet on Feast of Tabernacles, everybody is joining in.
Mm-hmm.
We find a very interesting fact which makes this link a little bit more obvious. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 10. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Genesis chapter 10. One of my favorite passages for me to hear you read. Okay, when you read this passage, and we have read it a few times, it's such a joy. Okay, you guys.
Trying to figure out the Englishization of Hebrew words.
Okay, let's just read the beginning of it, and we'll get the gist.
Oh gosh, like chapter 10 from the beginning.
Yeah, like chapter 10 from the beginning. Let's go, let's take the first 8 verses.
Thank you. Now this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yavan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Rifat, Vetogarmah. The sons of Yavan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Vedodadim. From these, the coastland peoples of the Gentiles were separated into their lands, every one according to his language, according to their families, into their nations. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Softa, Ramah, Vesavtecha. And the sons of Ramah were Sheba, Dedan. Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth.
Okay, very good. And then you can go, if you fast forward just to verse 11, you see that Ashur went from that land. He built Nineveh, he built Rehovot and Ir and Kalach, and he built Resen, and he built, and then Mitzrayim begot Ludim and Anamim and Lahavim, and you have all these names of all these people, and you kind of go, what? I mean, how is this? You know, why is this important? Why waste the ink? Okay, you know, the ink was a very valuable product when Moses wrote it on a scroll for the first time. Why waste the ink? And I mean, you know, you kind of go, you know, savtecha. How is it related to me?
Yeah, right.
But it is related. It is related because if you count the names, okay, the names of the families, the people here, which basically formed the families of the earth after the big flood, this is the development of humanity. This is the second time that God is creating humanity after what happened with the family of Adam and his children. This is the second time. This is the development of humanity. We find 70 names. Okay, 70 names, families that began the development of humanity back then. Okay, 70 names. This number 70 is not for no reason. When the children of Israel, when they go to Egypt, when they go down to Egypt at the end of the book of Genesis, it says that all these people went down to Egypt along with Jacob and his sons and their sons and sons, and how many were they? 70 again. Okay, 70 people in the Israeli family going before they went to Egypt at the end of Genesis, right before the slavery. Okay, that was 70 again. At the end of Deuteronomy, before Moses says goodbye, before Moses dies, he gives the people a blessing, a singing, it's called, and it says that God set the boundaries. He set the boundaries for the nations according to the number of the children of Israel. So 70 families in Genesis, beginning humanity after the big flood, standing right before 70 people in the Israeli family. And at the end of Deuteronomy, Moses shows us the connection, that the boundaries, the way God formed humanity. The nation of Israel is a mini model of the entire humanity, also demographically. It's a mini model, okay? The mini model of all humanity and everything, and spiritually, everything that goes on with this nation, with this particular nation, is a reflection of what goes on with all humanity and God. Okay? But wait, we haven't got to the connection with Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, now let's please go to the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers, chapter 29. Okay, in the book of Numbers, chapter 29, we read about all the appointed feasts, but not just about the content of the feasts, but the practical, the technical details about how to keep them in the temple. So it really this passage is really about the sacrifices which were brought during the days of each feast.
Right.
Let's read chapter 29, verse 12, please. You won't read the whole thing. I'll tell you when to stop and fast forward a little bit.
On the 15th day of the 7th month, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work, and you shall keep a feast to the Lord 7 days. You shall present a burnt offering, an offering made by fire as a sweet aroma to the Lord. 13 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 lambs in their first year. They shall be with...
Okay. Go to the verse 17.
On the second day, present 12 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs in their first year without blemish.
Okay. Verse 20.
On the third day, present 11 bulls. 11 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs in their first year without blemish.
Good. So we have on the first day, we have 13 bulls.
Oh, the
13.
bulls are getting less and less.
Exactly, one less. On the second day, you have 12. On the third day, you have 11. What's going to happen on the fourth day in verse 23?
Present 10 bulls, 2 rams, and 4
10 bulls. What about verse 26, the fifth day?
Present 9 bulls.
9 bulls. Okay, sixth day in verse 29.
And 8 bulls.
8, and then on verse 32, 7 bulls. Okay, so when you add up the numbers 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, what number do you think you would get?
70.
70. Okay, so it gets to 70. Well, the bulls, and so you have here the living sacrifice, that you have the bulls and the rams and etc., etc., etc. Everything is being added up. Okay, all the living sacrifices that we have here, they're being added up they are being added up to 70 altogether. And Feast of Tabernacle is basically the day in which we bring 70 living sacrifices from the livestock, okay, as for 70 nations. The 70 nations which we read about in Genesis 10, which stand for which have connection with the 70 people going to Egypt that formed the little Israeli nation which was coming about. Every Feast of Tabernacle, we bring 70 sacrifices from the livestock. Okay, from the livestock. So you add up all the numbers you have there, the bulls and the rams, everything which is from the livestock. You add it up, you get to 70. We bring these sacrifices, or we used to bring these sacrifices for the world as intercession, really. Okay, as intercession. So it stands for the world, for the nations. And that is why Zechariah says, all those who don't come to celebrate Feast of Tabernacles, right? That's a warning. Everybody would have to come during this particular feast, which is very much about the nations. It's about if we had our Day of Atonement on the 10th day of the 7th month, the 10th day, it's like the Day of Atonement for the world on the 15th day of the 7th month for a whole week.
Wow. Would you say that there, just in general, that this is something that is thought about much in Israel amongst Israelis? Is there an awareness?
Well, we all know. Well, I can tell you that people would this time of the year is the time when you begin to when you basically read. You go into every newsletter or everything which has something with the meaning of the day, the content of the day. You would see many people writing about the importance of the nations in the Jewish worship services, and the room which we have for intercession in that context, etc. Okay, this is the time when people really think about it, when really people really put it in the center of the meaning of the days that they celebrate. I would wish I wish it would last even longer throughout the year, not just on these particular days, but that's definitely the place to start this feast.
That's awesome.
So that's Feast of Tabernacles, a little bit about it, and I just to those who are willing to listen, I'm really happy to share about that. It's a very special time for me.
Well, thank you for opening it up to us.
My pleasure. Are you gonna play for us?
I will. Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth.
Let me just unmute everybody here because people might want to say. Let me do that. Oh.
Thank you so much, Ruth and Gil.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. And
Thank
Chag
you.
Sameach.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach. L'chaim.
Gil,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
when you see that Robin has a
Thanks for blessing us, Gil.
Thank you very much. Lovely.
Thank you, Gil.
Good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Ruth.
Bye.
So good to see everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you again. Bless everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, Miss Annie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth and Gil. Oh my goodness, I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Going to be having the now ventures when we can get back to Israel.
Yeah, well, are we going to, you mean?
Yes.
We will, as soon as Israel opens up again and we can start to think about people coming.
Good, good.
We definitely want to
Sign me up. There's so much more to learn.
Yeah,
Mm.
awesome.
All the time.
Okay, bless you all. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
you.
Bye.
Wonderful.
Bye, Gil.